The notion that the disciples stole the body of Jesus is exactly the explanation the Jews offered to explain the empty tomb. Beyond the fact that the disciples had no motive or ability to steal the body, this ancient Jewish explanation was not a good lie for many reasons. Like, how would the sleeping guards have known that the disciples stole the body if they were asleep? And no Roman guard would admit to the capital crime of sleeping on the job. Perhaps that's why, as Matthew records, the Jewish authorities had to pay off the guards and promise them to keep them out of trouble with the governor. It was their lies covering up more lies. In 1878, a fascinating archaeological discovery was made that seems to corroborate the Bible's claim that the Jews were circulating this theft explanation. A marble slab measuring 15 by 14 inches was discovered in Nazareth with this inscription:
"It is my pleasure that graves and tombs remain perpetually undisturbed for those who have made them for the cult of their ancestors or children or members of their house. However, anyone charges that another has either demolished them, or has in any other way extracted the buried, or has maliciously transferred them to other places in order to wrong them, or has displaced the ceiling on other stones, against such a one I order that a trial be instituted, as in respect of the gods, so in regard to the cult of mortals. For it shall be much more obligatory to honor the buried. Let it be absolutely forbidden for anyone to disturb them. In case of violation, I desire that the offender be sentenced to capital punishment on charge of violation of sepulchre."
Scholars believe this edict was issued by Emperor Tiberius, who reigned from AD 14 to 37 during most of Christ's life. The striking nature of this edict is that it raises the penalty from grave robbing from a mere fine to death. Why would the Roman emperor bother to make such a severe edict, one, at this time, and two, in such a remote area of his empire, Nazareth? While no one knows for sure the reason for the edict, a likely possibility points back to the empty tomb of Jesus. We already have good evidence that the Jews put forth the theft hypothesis. The main point is that the theft hypothesis was an admission by them, and even more proof that the tomb of Jesus was really empty. After all, why would the Jews concoct an explanation for an empty tomb if Jesus' body was still in there? So they had to come up with the theory that the disciples stole the body of Jesus. The theory takes an untenable position that the New Testament writers were all liars. For some inexplicable reason, they stole the body in order to get themselves beaten, tortured, and martyred. Adherents to this theory cannot explain why anyone would do this. Why would the disciples embark on such a self-defeating conspiracy? And why did every one of them continue to say that Jesus had risen from the dead when they could have saved themselves from being tortured and killed by recanting that testimony? In addition to the disciples' severe conflict of interest, adherents to this theory cannot explain other absurdities required by this theory. For example, how did the disciples get past the elite Roman guards who were trained to guard the tomb with their lives? They would have had to set up a small construction site to roll the rock out of the way, which would have made a ridiculous amount of noise and be obvious to everyone. And if Jesus never rose from the dead, then who appeared to Paul and James and the other hundreds of eyewitnesses as if it was like some kind of ancient weekend at Bernie's? It's just absurd. And did the New Testament writers lie about their conversations too? Did Paul simply make up the evidence found in 1 Corinthians? And what about the non-Christian writers who aren't even part of the New Testament? Did Josephus lie about James being martyred by the Sanhedrin? Did the Roman writer Plagon, born AD 80, lie as well when he wrote in his chronicles?
Jesus, while alive, was of no assistance to himself, but that he arose after death, and exhibited the marks of his punishment, and showed how his hands had been pierced by nails.
It would take more of a miracle for all this to happen than for Jesus to rise from the dead. The disciples stealing the body of Jesus theory just does not stand up compared to all the actual evidence pointing to the fact that Jesus rose from the dead.